Just give me a reason to keep my heart beating. Don't worry, it's safe right here in my arms. As the world falls apart around us, all we can do is hold on, hold on.
What's up, guys? This is DT Ninja here to bring you my Rurouni Kenshin live action movie number 2 review, and this is part 2. This is going to cover Kyoto's main part. Part 1 covered everything up until the Shingetsu village. I covered a lot, so I hope you guys enjoyed part 1. But part 2, we're going to focus on Kyoto and what happens in Kyoto. So yeah, anyway, let's get into it. This is Kyoto Taikahen, the Kyoto Inferno. Alright, so Kenshin has just left Shingetsu village. He's on the Tokaido trail, and he arrives in Kyoto, right? He arrives in Kyoto. Misao is now at the Aoya. Now they're at the Aoya, and they meet the old man, Okina. So Kenshin and Okina meet. This is quite interesting. I like their choices of actor here. It was really interesting to see who they choose. But anyway, you get this dynamic of them, you know, fighters from the revolution, and they're having their little talk, you know, with their tea, and it was quite interesting. I liked it. And then you get, we move on to the next part, which is, you get some of the Juppongatana, okay? You get obviously Hoji, Yumi, okay, and Sojiro. So, and then, all of a sudden, you know, Cho shows up out of nowhere. Cho the sword hunter shows up out of nowhere. So then, you know, the special attack force squad is summoned. You know, summoned to Shishio's hideout. So it's really interesting to see some of the new, some of the characters from that group, the Juppongatana, which means 10 swords, by the way. But anyway, yeah. So I really enjoyed that. The next part, we have Kenshin. He goes to Sakura Rai's, you know, family's house, and he wants to reforge a new sword. He wants to get a new sword reforged because his sword is snapped in two, right? He needs a new sword. He needs someone to repair his sword. So he goes to Seiku, which is, you know, the son of Shaku Arai, and he basically, he tells his story. He tells him he needs a new sword, you know, and he refuses, right? He refuses. He says, you know, we're living in the Meiji era now. I don't make swords like that anymore. I'd rather not. So Kenshin says, okay, that's fine. You know, he leaves, and then Cho the sword hunter shows up out of nowhere, right? And he steals, well, kidnaps Iori. Iori is the little baby, right, of Seiku. So he kidnaps him, and then, you know, he has him he has him in this basket, right? And Kenshin shows up, you know, he shows up again, and he realizes something's wrong, and this is when the battle starts, and this is pretty awesome, because this fight was awesome. I like how one of the fights here was just, it was really awesome to see, you know, Cho's character, you know, really came through, you know, that sinister, you know, he'll do whatever he has to do to get swords, you know, he's a sword hunter, so, I mean, it was really awesome to see that, and, you know, we see him break a couple of swords of Cho's, you know, and he doesn't even have a sword, so you see Kenshin's, you know, power, his ability as a swordsman, you know, to use strategy in his favor, even though he doesn't have, you know, the blade fully, you know, reforged, he still can do some damage. So I really liked how it showed that as well. And there was one part that was a little discerning. It was a little, almost to the point of offensive. Now, offensive to Kenshin because Seiku, okay, he realizes that Iori's in deep trouble, you know, and Kenshin's in trouble. He can't do anything. He can't fight with anything, because first he has a vow never to kill, and two, he doesn't have a real sword to fight with. So, yeah. Anyway, Seiku finds the sword of his father, Shaku, and he opens it. And he sees it's a reverse blade sword, and he knows it's a reverse blade sword. So what he does, he takes it out, and he puts it back in the sheath, and then he doesn't tell Kenshin. He doesn't tell Kenshin that it's a reverse blade sword. Now, if I were Kenshin, I'd want to know, because for one, if I'm going to use a sword, and I haven't used a sword in so long, one, you might refuse. Two, I only want to use my protecting sword. So, yeah, that was a little almost to the point of offensive. I don't know if they intentionally did that, but it came out that way. So it was a little hard for Kenshin, because in the next moment, which was epic, by the way, showing Kenshin unsheath his sword and basically take care of Cho in a matter of seconds. I mean, it was an epic part. But the fact that he didn't know it was a reverse blade sword, honestly, it was also that way in the anime. However, Seiku didn't know either, right? He didn't check. That's the only difference, He actually checked in this one. So, anyway, he finds out that it's a reverse blade sword, but he still has this guilt, Still has this guilt over him, and even this anxiety. So I really like how they captured that. Alright, guys, and then after that part where they're fighting, Kaoru and Yahiko, they come back to Kyoto and they meet Kenshin, and that is where the divide happens between Kenshin and Kaoru. The difference is they don't meet him with, Seijiro Hiko. That is a little different. Done it a little better. But then we go to Sonosuke, and Sonosuke's part was a little disappointing. We don't get to see him meet Anji the Destroyer on the way, going to Samosa, because remember he meets, at the battle where, the Sekihotai were defeated, and that is where, he learns the Fuutai no Kiwami. Now, we don't get that dynamic in this episode, or in this movie, so that was a little disappointing. However, there were some really good aspects of the movie, like I've explained. So moving on, we get the dynamic of Aoshi Shinomori in Kyoto. Now, Aoshi is just looking for Kenshin, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe he passes by Kaoru and Yahiko, like he's walking, and it's just like that in the anime too, I believe. So that was really cool to see. And then the next part, we get the burning of Kyoto. The Inferno is going to begin. So all the Jupongatana are there, and now we get to see, full what's going to happen. So now we have Kenshin is in the battle, and what's great about this is they actually show the fight of the Inferno. It's not just, they don't prevent it. In the anime they prevent everything, and Kenshin is off with Saito and Sanosuke. This time they're part of the Inferno plan, though they're actually in Kyoto, protecting Kyoto. So I really like that. And there's this moment where Kenshin is walking across the bridge, and so is Saito, and it's just epic because, they're just walking, and then they just unsheath their sword, and they just start going at it. I mean, it's just epic. I really like that moment. And then, to move on, we were obviously talking about the Kyoto Inferno, the people setting the fires, and Kenshin and Saito are fighting them off. He fought some of these Shishio lookalikes, and it was interesting because I thought it might represent something, in his head, he's kind of conflicted now that Kaoru and Yahiko have come back to Kyoto, and now that this dynamic of them trying to save Kyoto at the same time is too much for him. So yeah, that is going on there. And then, while that is going on, we have Aoshi Shinomori and Okina. Now this fight was possibly the best fight of the movie. Now, why do I say this? We have two Kodachis, okay? Two Kodachis, and 2 steel tonfas. Now, at the beginning, we just get a sword fight, okay? We got the Kodachi, and he's just got a katana, you know? He's just got a regular sword. But then, he goes into, you know, the place where they are, and he gets it out while he's fighting him, and he gets out the tonfas, you know? And so he actually has, you know, the actual ninja equipment and everything. I really liked how they did that. And then towards the end, you know, the end of the fight, I don't want to give it away, but at the same time, the ending was so epic. You know, Misao coming in, you know, seeing the blood splatter, like almost like it was like in slow motion, not slow motion, it was like delayed, you know, like the Kaiten Kenbu recurring attack usually is. But I just really liked how it didn't show a dominating one side over the other. I liked how, you know, the old man Okina actually had Aoshi on the ropes, and then all of a sudden, you know, Aoshi just starts slicing, and then Misao shows up, and you guys probably know what happened after that. But like, yeah, that was one of the epic fights for this movie. I think it was one of the most epic, if not the most epic. If there's one character that took away the screen from Takeru Sato, it would be Aoshi, because Aoshi's character, wow, that fight was awesome. And then we see Aoshi, he's finally made it to Kyoto, you know, where the Inferno is being, you know, where they're setting the fires, and, you know, he says it again, Doko da! Where are you, Batou-sai, you know? And this is right when Kaoru is kidnapped, you know? She's kidnapped by Sojiro, and, you know, this is where Kenshin must take the horse and, you know, ride after them on the horse, and then he ends up, you know, going onto the ship, the battleship. Now this is awesome because you got all the Jupongatana. This time it's not just leaving some behind. All of them are on the ship. Now you have Shishio's there, obviously, and you have Hoji, and, you know, they're holding Kaoru captive, you know, and they're threatening to, you know, slice her, and then eventually, you know, they just throw her overboard, you know, and Kenshin has to fight off some of the Jupongatana, including Shishio, you know, and he's like kicking him down, and then finally, you know, Kenshin just jumps overboard. Now that was surprising. That was really surprising. I did not expect that to happen, actually. Oh, and the ending, yo, Kenshin's washed up on the beach. He's kind of, you know, he's passed out, and you see this man taking his sword, you know, and lifts it up like he's about to strike and kill him, and he puts it down beside him, and he picks him up and walks away, and yo, it's Seijiro Hiko, yo, his master, yo, that was so epic to see. I really enjoyed the ending of the movie. It just built up, you know, that perfect, you know, build up for the next movie. So I really enjoyed this movie. I hope you guys enjoyed my review, and as always, have an awesome day.